And every one of them was a diamond. Well, watch what you bloody well wish for. You do not fuck with your saint.
Hey Andy, how's it going?
How you doing? Nice to see you.
Great to see you. Great to see you. Come on in. Welcome to No.12 Easton.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a push. Andy Dennison, thank you so much for coming and talking to me over a cup. I'm really excited to actually just sit down with you and get to know you, because this is the first time we've met, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I've got a lot to ask you. But first of all, for people who might not know on CuppaSoul, who is Andy Dennison?
Thanks for asking me for a start. You know, it's exciting. When I got a message to come down and DJ at your night, I thought this is brilliant, because I had sort of laid off the DJing for a while, and it was really through lockdown when that started. Steve Green was doing a stream thing, and he says, Andy, how do you fancy doing? I said, I've only got one deck and all the rest of it, and so I kind of got back into it again. At the time, I was doing, at the same time actually, the John Buckley, who you know,
yes,
John.
Yes, a fellow Scotsman.
That's right, John Buckley, Colin Law. We're doing a thing called Underground Grooves every Saturday morning. They said, how do you fancy coming up and doing that? Because I'd known these guys for a long time. And I first started going, I went to my first all-nighter, be 1984, I was 17 years old. That was at the Glenrothes YM. And it was kind of run on the back of what Stafford was. And that Stafford was just coming up to the end. But they were wanting to run Glenrothes with the same ethos as what Stafford was. We knew progressive discoveries, and mostly 60s at the time, and you had people like Guy, Keb, you know, Dave Thorley, all these guys coming up, you know. I remember Keb playing there's a thing by the Moments called Baby I Want You. It was covered up, I can't remember what it was covered up at the time. I remember Keb playing that 3 times in the spot and saying, you will fucking dance to that. Right?
I've heard this story.
You
oh
will
my
fucking
gosh.
dance.
Thank you so much, right? Because I've heard this story quite a lot, but I always thought that was a myth.
No, absolutely true. Rob Marriott did exactly the same. He did the same, I think, by the Hyperions.
Yeah.
To try to treat me like you do. And that was his old Escorts cover up. I remember him doing that at the 100 Club 3 times. You will fucking dance to this, right? And that's how it was. There was no prisoners. I remember Guy Hennigan at his, the very first Stafford, just before the record was actually played, Guy says, ain't taking no requests and no fucking prisoners. Boom, on with the first record.
I mean, you know, the stuff that I've heard about the sort of 80s scene is that it had so much attitude.
Yeah.
How did that affect, you know, being on that kind of scene at that time? How do you reckon that affected maybe your personal life? I mean, was it all in for you?
All in.
All in.
All in. And it was the most important thing. I mean, you could be away for my first all-nighter at Glenrothes 1984, I thought this was it, because up till that point, I thought there was maybe only a handful of Northern Soul records, and all of a sudden I had 8 hours of Northern Soul, albeit newer stuff, but I was like a sponge. And I remember that first night where you had a lot of oldies fans were there, the guys that I knew, and they're like, this is rotten, this is crap. They didn't like it because it was coming off the back of the ethos of what Stafford was about, was playing new discoveries and whatnot, you know. It was mostly oldies all-nighters that I was doing at the time, because there wasn't what I was looking for. I needed to try and learn that stuff. I needed to hear stuff that I knew, and then once you started going to some of the oldies all-nighters, and this is just for me personally, it was, I want to hear something different. Then you started sourcing out all the different all-nighters, and 80s, I mean, a lot of people reckon that 1981 when Wigan finished, that's it. No, it wasn't. That was it starting, because there wasn't so much of it was more soulful stuff that was coming in, stuff that was put on tapes. And you had a period that was called the tape swappers period, and everybody was a collector, and you were making up a tape. It was like you doing your reset for somebody at an all night. I'll make you up a tape. I'll make you up a tape. You know.
Well, that was the only way to listen to music back then, wasn't it?
Well,
you know,
you know
had
what,
to beg DJs to make a tape for you.
You know what, Lavanna, what we had to do, because of the turnover of records for Guy, Rob, Keb, Ion, you know, Jock, the whole lot. The turnover in records was so much, you had to take your wee tape recorder where you put that in and listen to it, and you listen to it in the bus back up the road. And that's how you learned about records. I mean, for instance, 1985, 86, you had the Emergency Butch starting to DJ. He'd been on the scene since the early 70s, and he was supplying DJs with records, or people with records and whatnot. But you had him now DJing, and the stuff that he was coming out with, maybe 23, 24 records in a set, 20 of them were cover-ups, brand new, and every one of them was a diamond. And he's done that longer than what Richard Sellon's done, you know. And Richard Sellon's up there, you know, but Butch has done it for 40 years at the top. you know. And the thing that he did that a lot of them didn't do is he's discovered 99% of them himself.
Talk to me about the Scottish scene a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the Scottish scene and how maybe it was slightly different and how it's been through the years.
Well, of course, I started going to soul nights sort of like I would have been 15 years old. My first all nighter, saying I'd be 17. That was at Glenrothes. But during the 70s, I mean, just going through other people's experiences and whatnot, some of the all-nighters, a couple of all-nighters in particular, were the biggest all-nighters in Britain. You had Arbroath Smokies,
Right.
well, you had the Dundee Caird Hall, and also you had Clouds,
Yeah.
and Richard Seller and all this, and that was the biggest place, you know, that they were travelling. But that was just before I started going, so I can only go on what people were
on
telling
what people
us.
have
But
told you,
when you had the likes of Mexborough, Chesterfield, Blackburn, all those going through the 80s, you know, you had the same sort of, you had about the same 250, 300 people that were going up there, that.
And
so
they were dedicated.
You had 300 hardcore that were into the same thing, wanted to see your new stuff, and the tapes were getting so it was absolutely vibrant. Yeah, it was absolutely vibrant. You know?
How do you think that compares to the scene nowadays?
You know what, I didn't go to enough events now. I asked myself, is there any differences to when we were going to now?
Apart from the age, obviously.
Yeah. But that's the thing, I mean, what you guys are doing here, I heard it right from the sort of like through the 80s, the sort of later part of the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, where's the young blood going to come from? You know, where's the young blood? Well, watch what you bloody well wish for. Here it's here. You know, and there's various people, like, you know, you got Natalie Nicholas and, you know, and all that, you know, you got young Jordan and whatnot. It's absolutely there. And a lot of the old codgers do not like it. Don't fuck what you're saying. You're right. You do not fuck what you're saying. And it's like, well, no, you're missing the whole point. Put yourself back. You guys are doing exactly what we were doing back then. I mean, I see some of your videos and whatnot. I thought, that's brilliant. You know, that it's exciting. It's exciting, it's fresh, and I think what you are doing is keeping the ethos there.
I want to start talking about you as a DJ. So you're quite highly revered. I've seen a lot online about you. Yeah, I've seen a lot online about you. You know, people really bigging up your sets. So I want to know a little bit about how you craft your sets and when did you start collecting?
Well, you know what, I collected records before I even went to an all-nighter. My first record that I bought was a record by the Sex Pistols called Silly Thing. You just start, you're into it, so you start looking through lists and whatnot. That was the days before the internet. You had lists,
of course,
and you either had to phone them up to try and get it. You're on the phone at the Monday morning to try and get it because the new lists come out. Or if you're sending to America, you get a list like this with all this, and then you send over your dollars. You know, it's a different thing altogether. And nowadays, I mean, I've got lazy-itis. The last time the last time I tried to look through a record box was at the People's Weekender that Colin run in 2013, and John Anderson, God bless his soul, RIP, he was still alive at the time. And John Anderson has discovered, he kept the scene going for all the discoveries and whatnot. And he had all his boxes of records, and I had about 5 minutes looking at it. I thought, my back, right?
Hunched over.
I couldn't do it anymore. So I became lazy-itis, and then you had the invent of eBay, blah blah, all the rest of it, you know, and you took it from there. You still had to do a bit of digging and whatnot. But I would say, there was you sort of asked about what's the main differences now. I would say within the collecting world is trophy records and prices.
With the collection that you've bought, right? If you had to swap with any other DJ in the world, who would it be?
Butch.
I had a feeling you might have said that.
In a heartbeat, but there's a lot of guys with great collections. There's a lot of guys with great collections. A lot of guys with great collections that you didn't hear about. There's a guy, I'm not going to mention his name. I've got a couple of records off him the last couple of years. I didn't know he existed, and he had. When I went down to his house, I was looking through this, that, and all the rest of it. I was just picking up a couple of records, and he started handing me some stuff. And there's a record by the Precisions, Sugar Ain't Sweet. Now I thought it didn't exist, and I'm looking through this, and he's got that. He says, "Oh, I got that." Right, and he says, "Have a look through that," and it was incredible. You know, I didn't know this guy at all. I was just put in touch.
Like a quiet collector who's just collecting them.
Oh, incredible!
And not playing them.
Oh, it was. I mean, he said, "Have a look through that," and you had all the shrine stuff, all the magnetic stuff, all this, that, and all that. He just got them all sitting in there. I was like, Jesus Christ.
What do you think is going to happen to your collection in years to come?
You know what? It's and I've always said this, you know, I'm married now and whatnot. If the fan it goes sold in a heartbeat, if it's such, like say if there's operations or you know something, it gets sold.
Yeah.
Not a problem. I've told Alison what to do with it. And the thing is as well, collectors are like vultures.
They
you know,
are.
sorry to hear about your done and your luck, but I'll take that off you. Have back. You know, that are, you know, and I've done the same, you
Absolutely.
know. Totally, you know, so, but as far as the collection, as you get older, you know, you start, you pass them on, but they'll be for a price.
Yeah.
You know, I had to pay a price for
I
them
don't know,
as
there's
well.
a lot of people that would have their records literally buried in the grave with them.
Yeah, oh,
you
I know,
so.
this has gone out with me, yeah. But the thing is, though, man, I mean, I'm married now, so it's, you know, I've got to kind of think about that. So, I mean, Alison knows what to do. She knows exactly who to go and see. I've seen the guy, I says, anything happens to me, you help her, she's no problem whatsoever. So,
that's good.
It's all that stuff's in place. It's like putting stuff in place before you, you know.
Yeah, not to be morbid or anything.
No, I kind of went doing that.
What a way to end the conversation.
Oh dear.
Anyway, on that note, it has been fantastic. Thank you so much for the conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. I'll see you guys on the next episode of CuppaSoul.